What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L-Squared podcast for an extra spooky episode. I am your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest who will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into spooks. Old legs.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Are we ready to tell are we ready to let the viewers in, the listeners in on the secret that I know you couldn't talk about it for a while now, but I'm just going to go public with it right now, but
We're going to drop it.
He's been working on a remake of these Tales from the Crypt, and he will be reprising the role as the Crypt Keeper, and that is just a little sneak peek of what you guys are in for right there.
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Warner Brothers for believing in me and not allowing my decision for not using any makeup. It's going to be all acting, and
I love it.
They're going to let me produce it, so it's going to be this exact same format.
Perfect. That's exactly what we need in 2020. How are you doing, buddy? How are you doing? We're 3/4 of the way through the spooky season. Are you holding strong here?
Doing good. This is my time of the year. This is the time of the year when I really try to soak in every day and appreciate the fall while we have it, And so we spent this last week going to a different time, to the aughts. And we're going to be doing the top 10 horror films from the 2000s. So from 2000 to 2009.
We are going to be doing it. And let me tell you, if you heard that sentence and you're like, I can't really put my finger on what might be the best film.
You're in good company.
That is the correct thought, actually, because I don't know that there is really a signature film out of this 10-year period. Tell me, am I right in thinking this?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think you are right. And that was kind of what interested us in doing this, was that the 2000s as a decade for horror is kind of, it's hard because, like you said, there isn't really a top tier or a blue chip film or two or three that pop out at you. And I think that it suffers a little bit from the post Scream era of the 90s, where Scream had come out and that had been such an industry changer that we were trying to play catch up and find, our own stride. I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to that. But what we've talked about too is that in the 2010s, we've gotten amazing horror films. Like, I think every horror film I could think of from the 2010s might be better than every single one of the films that made my list today.
So I did a lot of belly aching about this list, as is per evidence via some of our correspondences. I think it just turned out that I had pretty much seen, for the most part, a good chunk of the best films, spooky movies from this decade. As I was going back and looking about it, I was being introspective about the fact that at this time period, so 2000 through 2009, I am between the ages of 10 and 19.
Nice.
So I'm starting this decade not really into horror, and if I'm watching any of this stuff, it's like way too early. And then towards the end, I'm pretty much all the way into it.
Mm.
But there's an issue. 2000. The issue is that we didn't really have a way to watch a lot of this stuff. So I didn't really see a ton of these films like as they were coming out. And like I remember like some of these films that I don't want to give it away and spoil the list, but some of these films I would like hear about and you'd like maybe read about, but there would just be no like fucking way to see it, like unless you got like lucky on a Saturday night and your parents had like a great cable package or something like that and it happened to be on HBO and you magically caught it like not 25 minutes into the film.
Oh yeah, those days. Yeah.
And so just a lot of this stuff I either had like halfway seen or thought I saw or just needed to see again or just completely avoided, because like honestly some of this stuff like I was sort of too young and just I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know? Like
I mean obviously your
I remember a lot of
moniker
these covers, like a lot of like seeing, this is gonna fucking date me, but seeing some of these things at the video store, just the title art and being like I don't know, like I don't know what that's about, but I think I'm good. I think I'm gonna pass.
Do you remember it was like the Jason Goes to Hell cover and it's like the hockey mask and fire and there's like a worm coming out of one eye and I think maybe a knife in the other. It was something. Yeah, it's just like brutal, and you're like,
like Jason Goes to Hell. And
you're like, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
I'm never gonna be able to watch that. So, that was a lot of these movies, and there are some incredible trailers to come out of this. I remember some of the trailers for these movies just fucking freaking me out.
Yeah,
and it would be headlining like Sunday Night Football, you know, so it's like unavoidable. Like, oh shit, this again, like, god damn it. But I will say, so from our 70s list, I diverged probably the most away from, I don't think I picked just straight up traditional horror films. I went into it with the intention of doing that, but essentially I fell back to just picking A, my favorite films, and B, good films. So we can argue about whether these are fully horror or not. I might be eating my words a little bit, but trust me, it's going to be better than putting Jaws in a list of horror films. It's better than that. So don't worry, listeners. I'm still going to win this week. But those are sort of my thoughts kind of going into this. This was harder than the 70s. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add?
I was going to say that I'm with you there, where a lot of these
I'm going to win. I agree.
Unlike It's Not a Competition. And a lot of these films I saw when they were coming out, but a lot of these had a lot of nostalgia for me, where my sister and I we would rent horror movies a lot. So we would rent these as they came out, or like you said, we would look for scary covers and get them, because we would always, our mom had a system where she's like, we'll rent 3 movies. Luke, you can get one you want to watch. Haley can get one she wants to watch. And then you have to get one that you're going to watch together. And the one we would watch together was usually always a horror film. So we would pick one and we would want to be scary. We would want to be scared by it and sit down and do it. So I had a lot of nostalgia, revisiting a lot of these. So that was fun, but it is really hard to put a list together when there's almost no direction, like just trying to map out even a strategy for it's like, where do you even start? So Old Legs.
Should I get us started here?
Where did you start? We'll go same format, loyal listeners. We'll go 2-2-2. So where did you start with your list?
Okay. So I am starting with the only film that I had not seen prior to us kind kind of kicking this off. I did rewatch some things that were a little bit shaky, I guess. Well, I guess never mind. I do have a couple films on here that I didn't see, but it was just more out of the fact that I thought I'd seen.
Okay.
We'll explain it later. I'm sure the hardcore old legs heads, they'll understand that I might not remember a film that I saw in 2007. So to start off this list, I went with a film by a horror director savant, and probably one of our best known commodities in the industry. I went with Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell.
Oh,
that's number 10.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
It didn't make the list.
It didn't make your list.
No.
Wow. Okay. So have you seen this film?
This is an old legs one for me. It's like I may have seen it, but I don't remember anything, and I didn't remember it to watch it for prep, so hence it did not make the list. So I mean, most likely I have no idea, but probably not.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let me take you through it. So Drag Me to Hell. This is a film by Sam Raimi, and this got pushed famously because of fucking 3 Spider-Man films.
Hell yeah. It's pizza time.
This was another thing I was thinking about, and we didn't kind of cover this in our preamble. It might come up, but this is before or right at the start of like the superhero it was right at the precipice of this age where everything has to be a franchise, right? And that plays really important into this, because I think that's probably a big reason why there's just not a whole lot of continuity here. We're so used to continuity. It's like, oh, well, there's this film and this is going to be a franchise and it's going to lead to this and this and this, where a lot of these are just fucking one-offs, and it's actually kind of refreshing. But again, I diverge. Drag Me to Hell. Okay, so Sam Raimi, he'd wanted to do it for a while. He ended up having to do 3 Spider-Man movies, and this is very much in the vein of, I would say, a modern-day Evil Dead. It stars Christine Brown is the main character, played by Alison Lohman. It has Justin Long, who I just can't take seriously in movies ever. And I think he's like one of the main reasons why this movie, it's not scary. This film is not scary. It has those elements of the old Evil Dead movies where there was like the shock horror kind of comic horror, that where just like things are going crazy.
Like it's more absurd, and you're just like, wow.
It's very absurdist, which kind of takes away from that like scary feeling. But it does actually work really well as just narratively wise. Alison Lohman, so essentially like the plot of the movie is she is a loan officer who denies an extension on an old woman's loan.
Yeah, what a bitch.
And the old woman says, well, fuck you. I'm sending you to hell. You're going to be cursed. And chaos ensues for the next 3 days. She has the classic meet up with the spiritualist, who is like, I can't talk to you. This is going to be a reoccurring theme on my list. I love this trope so much. Like every time I get it in a movie, it's like, yes. And for listeners, my dream is to send like a fake priest or rabbi to Luke's new home, and pretend like there's some aura or spirit in the house, and that he can't be in the house. And
we've talked about it, and I'll fall for it when it happens.
Yes. You still haven't signed the papers, but it's pretty much like a set agreement, and you have to end up backing out. Like, yeah. I can't wait. so this has been like a long like running thing that I've really wanted to do to a friend, and you know. But anyways, there's a lot of madness, chaos. It's a fun movie. It's not particularly scary, but if you're in the mood for like a more modern take on the Evil Dead, it's not going to disappoint. It's a little bit too like done up. Like it looks like a Spider-Man movie almost, and that just like it's a bit of a turnoff. Some of the special effects have already like really aged. I mean, this is no Avatar, you know. You know,
That might come up. No.
yeah.
Gentrification is scary.
If you think Avatar, that would be the last straw. I will quit the podcast. So yeah, that's my number 10. Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi. Am I gonna go for another here?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 9, and this was at kind of my lowest moment. I think it was like the 5th movie in a row that I've seen that wasn't gonna make my list, and I was really frustrated. And so I don't think Luke believed me, but I said, fuck it. I'm putting Silent Hill on my list. Silent Hill is number 9. Luke, have you seen this?
No.
No. There's going to be a lot of me explaining films today. Silent Hill. Here we go. 2006, directed by Christoph Gans, starring Radha Mitchell, starring Sean Bean in what has to be the most unlikely movie for him not to die.
Wow.
Swear to fucking God. Silent Hill. 1 million people die in this movie, but not Sean Bean. It is the most... It's worth watching. If you don't believe me, go watch it. This is a video game adaptation. I think it's maybe the best video game adaptation of all time. Again, not a low bar, but
yeah.
Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Absolutely not.
There you go. So Silent Hill. Okay, another one. Did you play the video games growing up?
Absolutely not. No.
All right. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna power through this. So I think anyone born like between 1988 and 1994, if you had a copy of Silent Hill, it was probably like the most like fucked up scary thing like ever. Like playing like it was like kind of the first like story game, you know. Basically all you have is a flashlight and you're just kind of running away from stuff, and there's crazy scary stuff, and it's got these like sort of iconic monsters. Like Pyramid Head is this thing that, I mean, it's sort of the only thing that it has over like a series like Resident Evil, where Resident Evil is probably just a better series in general, but it kind of lacks that like central really oogie boogie guy. I mean, maybe you could call like Nemesis that, but Nemesis is more of just a, you know, brooding whatever, where Pyramid Head is this like, it's this weird thing. He's this, you know, giant, it's what it sounds like, a Pyramid Head. I remember being weirded out and scared by it because you'd like never seen this, and it's like your like 8 to 10-year-old brain. It's just like, fuck. And he's got like the Buster Sword from like Final Fantasy VII. So really bad there. And then like the kind of final boss is like this like Bedman from Guilty Gear, like just basically sending barbed wire out, you know, all over the room. And it's a crazy story, crazy whatever. And somehow they sort of pull it off in this movie. There's like this duality that would like make Christopher Nolan just like, this is like a wet dream for him. This alternating timelines between the shadow world and the real world, and there's an ambiguous ending where you're like, whoa, like, did they actually make it out of Silent Hill?
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I would recommend it. It is spooky. It's very violent, more violent than I remember. We always made this joke about it, like ashing. I remember watching this in high school, but that's like the weather in Silent Hill. It's just constantly ashing. So
Okay.
that's fun. I rewatched it recently, and I was like, yeah, you know what? This is good. So Silent Hill, there you go.
Okay.
Uh, that's number 9 on my list, and take it away.
All right. Well, so number 10 is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. One that I didn't necessarily expect to make the list, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I have gone back to rewatch this multiple times, and I enjoy it, even though it is a bit of a guilty pleasure. From 2007, Dead Silence. Have you seen this film?
I have not.
Okay.
Never heard of this film.
So it's if you're scared of dolls, it's a what's it called? Um Ventriloquist, if you're scared of ventriloquist dolls. So this was kind of James Wan's sort of first horror film after Saw. Like after Saw blew up, he and Lee Winnell obviously made that short. They made it into a feature, and then this was kind of his next like horror film to make. And he's kind of stated subsequently that the studio kind of had a lot of involvement and came in and tried to sort of water it down and make it a little bit more paint by numbers, which is kind of what doesn't necessarily hold up about it. It's a little bit cookie cutter,
Sure.
but you can see like now James Wan is the standard for horror films, commercial big production horror films now. James Wan has been the standard for a long time, and this is kind of him cutting his chops, and there's some really scary stuff in it. I mean, dolls are just fucking creepy, and there's a lot of creepy dolls in here, and you kind of get to see him do things that he'll perfect later, like creepy dolls, which he brings up again in Conjuring, and then they spun that off into Annabelle.
Yep.
And just and a creepy old lady, a really creepy old lady that he later does in Insidious. You get to see that a little bit here, and it's really creepy. And it's got a wild ending that they pull off convincingly in the film, but if you think about it for 2 seconds after, you're like, wow, that doesn't make any sense at all, but you buy it in the film. So I mean, it's a good, I like it. It's just a fun, just classic. It's not necessarily great, but it's just a fun horror movie.
Not necessarily great.
Yeah. And it's number 10. That's what we're working with.
Okay. Well, I like that because that's sort of just like a genre pick, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a horror film, and it operates on those rules of being a horror film, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. I can respect that. I can definitely respect that.
Am I doing better
That's
this time around?
You're certainly you're complying to the game. So I just put Silent Hill on a list of things.
Of anything. It made a top 10.
Yeah. So I mean,
All right.
we're off to a great start.
We sure are. So moving right along, this is one that I rewatched for this list, and I remember liking a lot at the time, and I thought it would be higher, but I ended up putting it number 9, which is it's a remake, The Hills Have Eyes from 2006. Did this make your list?
It did not.
Okay.
I did not see this film.
Okay. So I think it's good. I think it's much better than the original, which the original I attempted to watch for the top 10 70s, and it didn't make the cut. And this one, I think that they kind of capture, Wes Craven was a producer on it, and I feel like they do a better job of capturing what he was initially going for in the 70s. And I like the setup of it, and I kind of like how it's played out. It feels almost like a PG-13 horror movie, though, except for that it gets super brutal and just like that's why it was lower. It got lower on my list because it's just so gory and brutal in a lot of parts, and it almost those parts of it don't really mesh with the rest of the film. So it's just kind of like it kind of, but it's honestly it's not a bad, it's a fun horror movie to sit down with, and I think the characters are set up well, and it kind of makes you uneasy, and there's some scary parts, and it's really brutal. So I think if you really like really brutal horror films, then you'll like it. But
Not really.
yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of those either. So that's why it was lower on my list, because I kind of forgot how brutal it was. But I mean, you know, it's just a fun. It's almost like I feel like just the characters kind of they almost go on a little adventure, and it's just kind of fun to be with them, even stranded in the desert and going off and trying to, you know, figure shit out. But for a remake and for the 2000s, it's pretty well done. So.
Interesting. On like the pantheon of remakes, where does this rank?
I mean, it's tough. I think that this is one of the rare remakes that is better than the original, but the original wasn't that good to start with. So, I mean, I think that it didn't do it quite as well as Dredd did, where Dredd remade Judge Dredd and made it better and just what it probably should have been, where like Hills Have Eyes made it better, but that doesn't really mean that it's really good. It's like, this is like a 6.5 out of 10, you know?
Okay. Interesting choice.
Thank you. So, I mean, it is a horror film, though. It is officially. There's 2 horror films already out the gate.
It goes into the oven a horror film. It comes out of the oven a horror film. There's no surprises.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay. So, what's your number 8?
So number 8 for me, this is a film that I'd seen a couple of years ago. I remember it being pretty fun and pretty metal, and I remember being real happy when I saw that it was made in 2009, because I was like, thank God I could use it for this ridiculous list. I have a film by director Ty West called The House of the Devil.
Never heard of it.
Wow, we are.
We're talking about 20 mediocre movies today.
Okay. House of the Devil. I like this. This is if you weren't satisfied last week with if you were left wanting more from our 70s list, and you know, sort of blends into the 80s, this is sort of a throwback to that style of film. It really, really wants to be a John Carpenter movie, and for the most part, it sort of succeeds in that. It is essentially the story of like Babysitter Gone Wrong, which, I mean, you can't get more Carpenter than that, as far as you show up to a house out in the middle of nowhere, and this is, I'll just say, like, if someone offers you more than $100 to babysit not even their kids, but their weird mother for a night, just be like,
no,
nah,
thanks.
I'm good. What's the catch?
Yeah.
So this is a really fun movie. It's sort of a slow burn, but it has like an incredible Greta Gerwig cameo as the sort of cool friend and the main character, her ride.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's very by the book, as far as, okay, she's left at the house and there's something upstairs, and she basically does what I feel like every babysitter does the second everyone leaves, is they just start looking through everything in the house. Like,
yep, absolutely.
I would be guilty too. I would just be like going through everything.
Oh, I've done it. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Uh, so, but again, I like this movie because it's suspenseful, but it goes for it in the end.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know what I like about, we've had plenty of talks about the allegorical horror and
Allegor.
for it, the allegor and gorer and not going for it. And this one goes for it. It gets really metal. It gets really fun. There's, I mean, the title says it. It's the House of the Devil. So
All right.
it's
I would watch that.
there's fun musical interludes. There's a Walkman,
Of
and
course.
you get the classic. She turns up the music in her Walkman, and then it's like
Yeah.
you're like shit. She can't hear anything. Like that sort of
Okay.
it's that back and forth between the viewer and the protagonist, but
Okay.
um, straightforward but well executed. And I don't really understand why Ty West hasn't done more in the genre. This is really well done. And again, if you're a fan of 80s slashers slash something, there's a little bit more under the surface than what appears, check this one out. House of the Devil. There you go.
Very good.
So, which brings me to sort of a linchpin into what we would come to know as modern horror. Maybe it's not as closely associated with some of the, well, I guess it is because it's a huge franchise now, but I have Paranormal Activity next on my list. So,
Okay.
is this on your list?
It didn't make my list because I actually like 2 and 3 way better than I like the first one. The first one's actually like by far my least favorite.
Is
So
two and three on your?
they were not made in the 2000s, so they couldn't make my list. But I know it, so I could talk to you about it. I've seen it many times.
I don't understand. So this movie, I rewatched this. This movie's fucking terrifying.
Oh, okay.
And so this basically the bigger conversation around this film, like I think a lot of people are familiar with Paranormal Activity, so I don't have to go into great detail about what the film is, but this essentially starts Blumhouse.
Exactly.
And Blumhouse raises the floor of our mediocre horror films for the next 10 to 15 years. It takes like an average film and makes it like a great film for like this kind of 2000 standard. And we can sort of talk about like, I don't know if like what you think about the whole, do we need 3 Sinisters or the sort of sequelification of all of these Blumhouse films that would come, Insidious, Sinister, and you can't even really keep them straight. But this is really what started it all, and it's this tiny, tiny, tiny film that turns into a revelation. And I just don't think that this film is going anywhere. This is not the only found footage film that I have on my list. I'm surprised that it's not on your list. I can't. This is a scary film.
Yeah, I don't really like it. And it's not that I think it's because
about it?
Well, Micah is so annoying. Micah is maybe the most annoying character of all time.
This was my guy.
No way. This is the guy?
I have never in my life related so much to a character as I have Micah.
Dude, Micah is just the biggest douche I've ever seen on screen.
This is exactly play by play how I would handle this situation if I were in this relationship.
Good Lord, man.
I mean, you know this about me.
Well, like, yeah, I think you're an ass. This totally makes sense.
I'd be like, let's call it. let's use the Ouija board. Let's get it on the phone. Let's call the demon. Let's camcord everything. I I I love this character. He's hateable. He's not good.
Yeah.
You could argue maybe he had it coming.
I can make that argument if you'd like.
But I like the straightforward nature of this first one. I don't understand the rest of them. I really don't. I like the sequel. I think it was maybe 4, where they had like the oscillating fan.
That was 3. That's the best one. Yeah.
Okay, so that one's good. I don't there's this, you could watch hours and hours of YouTube trying to figure out the fucking backstory for these bullshit movies.
Yeah, the demon and the whatever. Yeah,
it's all stupid. All of that is stupid. Like this is a very simple movie, and it has all my stuff there. The priest comes to the house. He's like, no, this is bad. I can't do this. Like, again, A+. You're making my list every time. Katie is great. She is. Weird thing where if you're in a found footage film, I just feel like you're never seen from again. Like, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these people are like the Will Ferrell sketch where they like they're selling their cells for a hit song.
Yeah.
I've never like watched a good found footage film where I'm just like, man, great idea, but those guys fucking suck. Like, you know?
Yeah.
It usually works out, and it's this weird thing, but you never see him again.
This is making me think of the Honest trailer for it, where there'll be like, where it was like, a mystery so deep, you'll be constantly asking yourself, is she hot? Or does she just have big boobs? No, I mean, this is one that, okay, so I have some baggage going into this when I saw it for the first time. And this is probably...
How old are you for this?
So in 2009, I think it was 2009.
2007.
Oh, it's 2007. Okay, so 2007, I am, let's see, I'm probably like 12 years old. But after it had come out, you know, I won't say his name, but you know this person. I'll tell you after. He was kind of telling, not really me, but I was in the group that he was telling that this film was basically a compilation of all of the best paranormal evidence that's ever been captured on film. So all this real stuff, and they just kind of compiled it into a film, and that's why it's so scary. And at the time, I was a ghost hunter simp, dude. I watched every type of ghost hunter show, everything. And so I was like psyched, and I thought that people were getting so scared because it was so real.
Is this like your pro wrestling? You thought it was real?
So I went into it, and I was like, wait, this isn't a compilation of all this stuff. And then, you know, me thinking it was real, I was like, okay, this is too much evidence to be real. Like, all these things that happen, like, that doesn't happen. On every single Ghost Hunters episode, like, a door cracks a little bit, and you maybe hear a voice on a recording, but it could have just been the wind, because nothing's actually there.
What? Is this like Santa Claus for you?
I'm just saying that I have trauma associated with watching this the first time, where I was like, fuck this movie, man. No.
But it was
like
too much evidence. Because you thought it was a documentary.
Right, because I thought it was real, and then I was like, this isn't real, clearly. And so, like, if I knew it wasn't real going into it, I was the age where this sort of thought, I didn't have, my rational brain was not fully formed. So I have that excuse. So, I mean, if I wouldn't, so then I think that's why I like the sequels better, is because I was like,
Tremors were real for like 4 years.
So, whatever. So for the sequels,
real animal.
Okay. I mean, maybe that's why you like Dune so much, probably. But but actually, friend of the show Tyler Backus and another friend Cole and John, they were like, because I was like, they were big Paranormal Activity fans, and I was like, no, they're not for me. I just don't like the first one. And they were like, no, there's like this whole story behind it. And so like they got me into the sequels, and then I liked it. What I liked about 2 more was that instead of just one camera shaky the whole time, it's all security cameras, and then the third one has like the oscillate, whatever. So like it is what it is. I have trauma associated with this, and so I just
with the film.
unfairly judge it.
You said nothing about the film. You just unpacked your deep-seated.
I'm a human,
package.
aren't I? Aren't I human?
Okay, so I don't know what the next two films you have are, but I think I just took the lead. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay, not a competition. So that was your 7?
Yes.
Okay. So my number 8 is one that I was like, it's a franchise, and I remember thinking like the first one is actually good and the rest stink. And then I rewatched it and I was like, oh, the first one's like just okay. Which is Saw.
No, this isn't on my list. What do you no?
Okay.
Okay.
So
I haven't seen Saw.
yeah.
Okay. Tell me about Saw.
So Saw has, James Wan. This started James Wan. He made a short called Saw. It was very popular. It's very good. Because of that short, they got funding to make a feature-length version of it, and it became a hit, and it started James Wan and Lee Winnell into what we know them to today. So it deserves credit for that. I like the concept is at least interesting. It's maybe better as a short film and not a feature, but basically the idea of this guy putting people in elaborate traps, basically because he doesn't think these people appreciate their life enough. So he wants to push people to the limits to see what the limits of basically trying to make people Fight Club style appreciate their life more. And by going through this traumatic thing, if they survive, they'll appreciate their life more. And so that's just kind of like, okay, that's interesting enough. What I forgot about, and it's got a bottleneck feel because I like the cold opening that they're just in a room chained up to a bathtub and to a pipe, and they have to try and figure out how they got there. And like, that's a good setup. That's a good opening for a film. You don't really know what's going on. It's dark. And then they kind of piece it together as you go. So like that aspect works. And the kind of interesting nature works. What I forgot about this film is how much of the film is spent just tossing things back and forth across the room. Takes up a good chunk of runtime. And the acting.
Did you watch this?
Did I have to? Yeah, I did, because I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I was like, I just want to make sure that, because I remember thinking like the first Saw is good and the rest of them kind of just stink and get super gory. And rewatching it, I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like I appreciate it, and I appreciate what they were going for. And I think parts of it probably hold up. But I guess I put it on because it's an industry staple of the 2000s, and it's not bad. It's pretty good. So I put it on.
I guess I have issues with it because it sort of starts this trend of films that increasingly get more and more brutalistic to the point where it's like, what are we actually doing here? Is this actually entertaining for people?
Yeah.
Like the amount of sequels just in the Saw franchise, but comparatively, I mean, I just don't really enjoy these films. I don't like the whole torture porn genre of horror is just not really for me. The extremity stuff, really not for me. A film that is not on my list, but I have seen from the 2000s, this film called Martyrs, which is a French film, The French Extremity. And it's one of it's the worst film I've ever seen in my life. The way that good Republican voting Reagan truthers probably watched The Exorcist and were like throwing up in their seats. Like that's how I was watching Martyrs. This whole list, like, and just I was so upset in doing research for this list because I just of how many times I just saw that film pop up. And I know we don't have to like talk about it or give it a ton of credence, but anyone who thinks that film is good or watchable, even like that's just like there's something going on there. Like,
yeah, no, that's you.
For like, do you have any shred of empathy? And the fact that I like kind of gutted it out to the end, which was not the right idea. I should have turned it off, but I mean, it's one of those things where now it's with me.
Yeah.
Things that can't be unseen. I don't really understand the genre, and I'm totally fine with that. If people like it, you're entitled to, watch whatever you want. So that's just sort of like it leads down this path, and this is where it's like I sound like old guy, and it's saying, you smoke weed, like you're gonna get into that other stuff,
Yeah. I mean, so Martyrs is the film that I've never seen because you've warned me against it. And I was like, what if I like ironically watch it? And you're like, I wouldn't. You're like, it's just not worth it. There's literally, you're just going to hate yourself. So we'll move past it. We'll move past Saw. We'll move past Martyrs. And I think that we'll go to the film on my list that is, it's almost a cheat, but it's the opposite of a gore fest.
Here we go.
And from 2002, starring Richard Gere, The Mothman Prophecies.
This is incredible. No. What? I know I haven't seen this movie. Like, okay. All right.
So
The Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah. So the thing is that I always thought this was like a monster movie, and if you know anything about like cryptozoology, Mothman, it seems like the most boring of all the.
I know about the Mothman.
Yeah. So it's like
Mothman's packing heat.
So it's kind of like, do I really want to watch a feature-length film about that? And I come to find out that's not really what this film is about. It's based on a book which was written by a reporter in which this phenomenon happened in West Virginia, where a bunch of these people in this one town were just kind of seeing weird things, and then they were having these prophecies, and it just sort of like infected this town, and it was weird. And so this author went and he investigated it and just basically took down their real life accounts. So this is a fictionalized version of that, where Richard Gere he works for the Washington Post, I believe, and then he kind of gets stuck in this town, and then these weird things are happening to these people, and then they start happening to him. And it's a slow burn, and it's just got a eerie vibe to it, and it's impressive to me because it carries that feeling throughout from beginning to end, which I think is hard for films, because a lot of times you can kind of get that creepy uneasiness at the beginning, but once you like kind of confront the thing that's causing it, it usually doesn't live up to it, and then you face it and whatever. Where this, like, you don't ever really face what's going on or really figure that out. So it's just it stays unknown. Allegor? No. But it just kind of it just remains creepy, and that creepiness, you still feel it at the end, and it's really good, man. And I think it's one that nobody talks about, that no one remembers, and it's actually really good. And this was one that I was really surprised watching, and I was like, this is one I'm going to go back to and see multiple times. So I would recommend it.
Wow, that's great.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear once you see it. So we'll move on to your number 6.
All right, number six for me is a film, another one from 2009. Not a bad year. This is a film by Artur himself, Lars van Trier. I have Antichrist at number 6 in my list.
I've never seen it.
Wow, you've never seen it? Oh, man. Do you want me to explain Antichrist to you?
Just give me the Cliff Notes version.
Okay, so first off, for a film called Antichrist, I've never within about the first 30 minutes or so that Lars van Trier has never been to church in his life.
Mm.
And I don't think it gets a rap as one of those like jarring film. And it's Lars van Trier, like most of his films at some point are going to shock you. And there's like a lot of shock value that I think that he takes really seriously, except for, I don't know, maybe Melancholia or something like that, but which might be his best film. But the film centers this. So I put this on my list, first off, because it's terrifying. There's iconic moments in it. I won't spoil. Some grotesque, some just spooky. But I think this sort of paves the way towards what we're sort of in right now, which is this like art house Artur filmmaker who sort of disguises the story he wants to tell in a horror setting. All of our sort of favorite A24 films that we've seen the last 5-6 years, like this is kind of the template. I mean, there's nothing like paranormal really going on here. It's essentially just it's a family drama that's wrapped in this really truly incredible filmmaker's vision. I wish Lars van Trier would just like make a rom-com. I think he could make maybe the greatest rom-com of all time. I'm so enamored with this style of filmmaking, but then I don't really like the subject matter of a lot of his films. Like,
interesting.
Whew, like Nymphomaniac Part 2 is a tough hang, you know? Could we have just cut it off with having sex with Shia LaBeouf at the end of the first one? Like, nope, we got to really go for it. So Antichrist is number 6 on my list. I recommend checking it out, man. It's got some wild Defoe in it.
Ooh,
real primal.
Always on board for that.
Primal Defoe. If you're a fan of filmmaking in general, it's a gorgeous film to look at. But again, essentially, it's just about a couple trying to work stuff out.
I think a lot of people have trouble getting past the title. I think that's
some couples can't do it. So, yeah, some can. But
do you want to go down that path?
I digress. I will move on to number 5 on my list. Number 5, I have a film. This is perhaps the most well-known filmmaker on my list. This is a film by Guillermo del Toro. It's Pan's Labyrinth. This is number 5 on my list.
Okay, didn't make my list.
Didn't make your list, but you have seen it.
I've seen it, and I guess I don't really consider it a horror film.
Interesting. You don't think it's scary?
It's just never really scared me.
Oh, you're so tough.
I just thought it was interesting. Like, it's a cool movie and I like it, but I guess in my head I never thought of it as a horror film. But
okay. When did you see this film?
You know, I think I was like 20. It's too late in life.
Okay. I saw this pretty early on. It scared the crap out of me. This is one of those, like, I'd heard about it, and then one of those magical nights where you're sitting down in your basement and you see it
Mm.
starting in 20 minutes and it's on HBO, so you know you're going to get the uncut
Yeah.
full thing. And so I watched it all the way through. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was probably like 16 at the time, like just maybe starting high school. And holy crap. Upon rewatching it, because this is one that I did rewatch just because I think it's one of his better films. And I have a complicated history with Guillermo del Toro where I just can't do it with some of his films. But this one is really good from start to finish. As an adult rewatching it now, I am much more scared of the human shit of the Spanish dictator guy. I would much rather be with the pale face dude, like having dinner and hanging out with my boy, the goat guy, than hucking it with Pops as he's torturing people in the barnyard. Like, whew. So that was kind of a fun kind of yin and yang there, of where when I first watched it, I was like, oh my God, Alice in Wonderland, like this is not. And this is another film where, or maybe every single character in this film, like, just fucking does the wrong decision. Like, if there's a scary, like, doorway to go through, they fucking go through it. And it's just like, oh my God, it's like this overload of just people just making sort of the wrong choices, but it's interesting for storytelling purposes. And so that's a little bit infuriating there. But again, I just like this film. I think it's scary. I think the humans in it are scary. I think the monsters in it are scary, maybe a little bit less so now that we're grown up. But Pan's Labyrinth, this is on my list. Just, again, I'm just defaulting to what I think is a very, very good film.
Yep. Respect.
So, yep.
Okay.
You're up.
I think I am. All right. So then my number 6, I've been very excited to talk about this one.
Okay.
And it made it all the way up to number 6. And I rewatched this the other night while I was at work. I was on the clock. So shout out. I was getting paid to watch this. It was a slow night. And I'm just like, I love this film. And if anybody off the street said this movie sucks, I don't know if I could disagree with them. But I think I might say I love it. It's from 2003, Freddy versus Jason.
This is a good film.
Thank you.
This is a good film.
Did it make your list?
Not on my list.
Damn it. I was really hoping it would make your list. I was like, I'm going to rewatch it because I know that I've liked it in the past, but I wasn't sure, if it would make my list. But rewatching it, I'm like, you know what? I enjoy the shit out of this movie. Now, it's really dumb, but it's just having so much fun. And honestly, what surprised me was that the teenagers in it work really well. Like, they're not annoying, and they actually, like, spend time fleshing them out in a way. Jason does with his machete. But
I'm waiting for a week to say that.
I've been saying it in the mirror. Yep. And
completely bombed. You got zero.
Thank you. Well, I'll do it in post. I'll put it a little, we'll do it. But I just love, at the end of the day, I like that they don't. I wish the opening was better. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like, the opening is just kind of like, all right, but I like that they don't waste time and they're just into it. So the premise is basically that on Elm Street, that town, they've forgotten about Freddy because they know that fear gives him his power. So they've all deliberately, they don't say his name, they don't talk about him, and so nobody thinks about him. So he's kind of lost his power. So he recruits Jason to come back and
stop the silent majority.
Yeah, okay, sure. So he pretends to be Jason's mother and says, hey, Jason, people on Elm Street are bad, go kill them. So then Jason goes to the city and starts killing kids, and then they think it's Freddy coming back, and so then the fear of Freddy starts to build, and he starts to get more power, but then he can't stop Jason from killing, and they end up fighting a couple times. And it's really fun. And at the end of the day, having a horror movie where you get really fun kills, and you know, you're a teenager, and like there's this big stalking creepy guy with a machete who's going to kill you while you're awake, and then you're running away, but you can't go to sleep because if you sleep, Freddy's going to come and kill you in your dreams. That's just a good setup. And
yeah,
maybe the most interesting thing about this film is that it exists at all. Like, there are legendary stories about the production of this film that it was a movie that was trying to get made since the 80s. There were so many different variations of the script, and it was just kind of one that people were like, this film is never going to get made. And it went through so many different iterations, and honestly, the one that we got is pretty good. Like, it's fun, it has great kills, it has good action, I think it's true to the characters, the teenagers are fun, it's dumb, but it's not trying to be anything else than what it is, and it's really enjoyable.
Right. So there's a version of this list where so all of the same things that you just said, I think you can say about, so like the Friday the 13th, just straight remake.
Okay.
I actually really enjoy My Bloody Valentine, same deal. I think these all came out in 2009. But yeah, I agree. Just having sort of the versus genre as a whole, it's interesting because I'm surprised it hasn't sort of like come back. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that sort of does define the 2000s. We get Alien versus Predator, we get Jason versus Freddy. Is there another versus movie that I'm thinking about? Was there a Rocky movie, like Rocky versus I don't know. I mean, he beats communism in 4, so it's like tough to really
come back. Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I like maybe that is just sort of what we should sort of label as the 2000s, or kind of the tentpole.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that right? This is a good pick from you.
Thank you. Finally got one on here. I think it's really good, and I thought, like, I love Freddy vs. Jason, so I was like, it's gonna make my list. It'll probably be toward the bottom. But then as I was putting it together, I was like, you know what? I like it more than this one. I like it more than this one. You know what? I'm gonna put it all the way up here because it feels so 2000s, and it is definitely, like, you could say ripping off from Scream, but every horror movie did that in, like, the conversations that the teenagers have and the kind of, like, whatever, like, that comes from Scream, but so does every horror film in the 2000s. Kind of
sort of used to it by this point.
Like,
we expect the characters to talk like this, or else
exactly
it's the movie's taking itself too seriously. Like we have to acknowledge the sort of hijinks for it to be valid. So,
yes. And I like that there's, like, a chunk of it where, like, the conspiracy of the kids who were in the mental asylum because they wanted to basically keep them quiet because they had previous interactions with Freddy and they were taking pills so that they couldn't dream. I like the conspiracy aspect of them getting out and, like, telling the other kids at the high school that Freddy's back, and then people trying to keep that, keep it under wraps.
Right.
It's just fun. It's just a really fun movie, and it's really fast paced. I know that some of the legends, there's those stories of, like, the other scripts where Freddy and Jason are in hell and they have this plan in hell in this conversation. I think that's kind of what the opening is sort of referring to, but they don't really, like, say that or mention it. It's just kind of like a quick little, and there are too many cutaways to Freddy just explaining what his plan is. Literally, it just zooms in on his face and he's just telling you what he's thinking. And it's kind of like, I guess that sort of is for the 2000s, but it's kind of like we don't really need that, but maybe whatever. I just think if you just want a fun horror movie, I don't think you're going to find one much more fun than this, honestly.
Right. And yeah, I would say for the most part, I typically default to that type of movie when I'm like just kind of sitting around on a Friday night. I don't just, I don't just regularly just throw on Antichrist because I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's get the popcorn out. Let's have a ball here. It is a fun movie, and I think that that is a good pick. I'm trying to think of other sort of pseudo fun type slashers that sort of fit in that genre, and that's probably the best of them. I think it definitely helps having the star power of Freddy Krueger and Jason, but that's good. So your next, or you have one more, right? This is 5?
Yeah. So then my number 5 comes from 2007 and starring Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale. Vacancy.
I have not seen Vacancy.
It's good, man. It's really good. Like, this film is
sort of laughing at the.
You think I made this up? It sounds like I made it up. I realize that. And you know what the director of this film's name is? His first name is Nimrod. Nimrod. I don't think I'm pronouncing correctly, but I mean, I'm not making it up. So the premise of this is pretty good. It's basically Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale are in a car, and it's like 3 a.m, and they're driving, and you can tell that they are not a happy couple. Their marriage isn't going well, and then they are.
Is this a sequel to Old School?
No, but it could be. And so like he got off the interstate because the traffic was really bad, so he's on the back roads, and he gets lost, and then they kind of start fighting, and basically they run into this creepy roadside motel out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't really know where they are, and their car breaks down, and so they're kind of like, okay, well, they were going to call a tow truck, but it's like 3 a.m. So they're like, whatever, we'll just get a room for the night and we'll just stay here and we'll figure it out in the morning. Right. So then they get their motel room and creepy stuff starts happening. Like the TV, none of the channels work. So they're like, oh, they just have VHS tapes in here. So they pop them in. And then it's scary when when you don't have any cable. It's horrifying.
What am I supposed to do?
Oh, the game's not on? And so they're like, oh, we'll pop in these VHS tapes. And then all these VHS tapes are like people getting brutally murdered. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And then they realize that it's the hotel room that they're in is where it was filmed. And then just creepy stuff starts happening, and we're off to a horror movie. What I really appreciated about this, because I remember liking this when I was younger. I remember watching it. I remember being scared. And I remember liking it. Now, going back to it, I was like, I'll rewatch it. And I was just assuming that I wasn't going to like it as much as I did when I was younger. But I actually liked it more. And it's just one of those horror films that it doesn't have any fat on it. It's just a lean cut. And the premise is solid. I have stayed at a lot of these really creepy roadside motels in my life, and every time it felt like a bad decision, and every time it felt like something bad was going to happen. So when it does, you're like, that totally makes sense. I mean, that's what it feels like should happen every time I stay there. And the conversations that I loved, I really appreciated the setup of Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale's marriage not working, and how it was not just thrown in your face. Like, they felt like very real conversations, and you could tell that it felt like a real relationship, and I appreciated it a lot. And the decisions they make sense. They're not stupid and they're not like overly supernaturally smart. Like, how did they even know to do that? Like, what the approach that Luke Wilson takes, I think, is totally reasonable, and I appreciated every one of his decisions, and I agreed with them. And it's just fun. Like, it's fun to just have a horror movie where like you're like, yes, do this. Like, if I was in this situation, I would try to do this, and that's what he does. And they like make mistakes, and it doesn't always work, and they get through it. But this is a creepy movie, and it's just really well done, well contained. There is a sequel. The sequel is dog shit, but this one is really, really good. And again, it's one that like nobody talks about, but it's got a special place in my heart. I really like it.
Somebody's talking about it.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. The first guy.
So, I'm curious, at any point were you just like, wait, like this is Kate Beckinsale, like aka Celine, aka Van Helsing's kick-ass. I mean, I could keep going. Like, what possible force in this movie could Kate Beckinsale not just like punch into oblivion?
She's just kind of like,
I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I buy like damsel in distress Kate Beckinsale.
it wasn't necessarily, she was scared, and it made sense, but honestly, that thought never crossed my mind. So I bought it, hook, line, and sinker from day one.
She's forever. We will do the Underworld pod.
That's what we've been saving up our sleeve. That's gonna be our big Halloween episode.
Well, I tell you what, I got a lot of mileage out of Underworld growing up. Talk about a cool franchise when you're in high school.
Yeah.
Underworld.
It's true.
So everyone's favorite movie until they discover Blade.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am up again. So this is my number 4. And for this, I'm going overseas. I'm going to a director that I know that is near and dear to your heart and to mine. He's the director Tomas Alfredson, formerly of the certified classic in Luke's eyes, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
The Snowman did not come out in the 2000s, so don't you dare.
Hold on. And my favorite, The Snowman. I have let the right one in here. And again, I'm bending the rules a little bit here. You might call this a sort of coming of age, a romance even, but I am taking horror elements. This is very much a vampire movie that is spectacular, start to bottom. Have you seen this, or I guess the remake maybe?
Yeah, I think I started the remake, and then I realized I should watch the original first. This was years ago. It wasn't like
they're both good
for this. Yeah, and I really like it, but like you were kind of alluding to there, I just never really thought of it as a horror film, even though it's a vampire and they're kids. But yeah, no, it's a great film.
I think that upon rewatching it, I'm a little bit more scared in the original than I was the remake. The remake, it's a little bit too, you're a little bit too adjusted to your surroundings. It's a little bit more familiar, I think. Having it being subtitled, I just like the kids in it, the bullies are just like, were terrifying for me. And there's sort of this in like ambivalence that is in the original that I didn't really catch from the remake, where it seems very much more of like a I'm choosing, good or evil, whereas I think in the Alfredson one, it's sort of this kid's sort of just trying to survive with an alcoholic dad and killer neighbor kids who's sort of his only friend. But I remember when I watched this was like sort of the first opening my mind to this idea of familiars, which I think is like now has become really funny since Shadows, basically.
Yeah.
But the idea that it's like it's like the repeating love story that's happening all over again, and you start to like watching this as an adult again. I was like, ugh, like this is kind of fucked.
Mm.
Uh, and the old guy in it too, like her sort of first love, or who knows,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
most recent. They've been together forever. Like it, like he's I forgot that he's a fucking pedophile and serial
Yeah.
killer. And
I forgot that too.
I was like, oh my god, this is like, and so now I'm like scared of that. And
Yeah.
there was just all sorts of things going on. Again, I think this is a stunningly well done film and surprisingly good remake. I don't think you could really go wrong with either. I would recommend them both as a really good sit down, especially if you haven't seen it. Yeah, the Let the Right One In. This is my pick for number 4.
Okay, cool.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's just kind of like, I think when the first time I watched it, I wanted it to be scarier than it was. I was expecting it to be more of a horror film, but on subsequent rewatches, you really appreciate how just really good of a film it is, overall. So I
Good.
like the pick, even though it might not be classified as a horror film, but yeah, whatever.
Well, not everything can scare you, I guess. You're playing the tough guy card here. It's getting a little annoying. I don't know what scares you. So you're kind of a
Old motels, dude.
I have not heard of a lot of the movies. Oh, okay. We'll move on.
Okay.
Number 3. I have to imagine this is on your list. If not, I don't know I don't think we're gonna match up.
Yeah. Okay.
This is The Descent.
It did not make my list. I rewatched it for this and talk about it.
This is crazy. What? Okay. Actually, you know what? I actually want to hear, because this is a popular film,
Mm-hmm.
and I rewatched it as well. This was by far my favorite thing that I rewatched that I had seen, and I was like, yes, this is great. This is a genre I love. I think have we talked about this on the pod? Like we talked. I just watched As Above, So Below too.
Mm.
Was that on the pod that we talked about that, or just in real life?
Just in real life, I think.
Great podcasting here, but
Yeah.
I love spelunking films. Caves spook me. Tight places are terrifying, and I'm curious, like why isn't this on your list?
Well, first of all, I'm not, when I make top 10s, I don't go for chalk. You know what I mean? That's not my intention here. So
a good film that's also
well, do you want to hear why it didn't make my list? So
maybe not. Maybe
not. Maybe you're not ready to. It's fine. Maybe you're not as inclusive as you like to think. No, so this comes up a lot when you obviously look up like best horror films from the 2000s. I remember seeing it when I was younger, and I remember not liking it when I was younger. So I was like, this is one I need to rewatch. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people say that they like it a lot. And so I'm like, I probably just missed something. So I'll rewatch it. And rewatching it, I was like, man, I just really don't like this movie. Like I almost borderline hated it. I thought that, the characters are
This is a wild
dumb.
take.
I think that the characters are really dumb, and
How would Luke solve this film?
I would make the characters more likable, for one thing. I thought that they were all the dumb decisions they made, I thought were stupid, and I thought that they didn't make any sense to me. Like, why? Okay, why? Okay, why? Okay, we're gonna plan a trip after this horrific accident, and we're gonna go to some unmarked cave, and then, but you don't know it's unmarked at the time.
Unbeknownst to the group.
Yeah, well, that one person made a decision, and it was fucking stupid. And it's like, okay, yeah,
It sucks.
she's the worst. And then her other friend, her underling, is so annoying. She just jumps down into anything, and it's like, oh, we're gonna go over here. I mean, I can keep going.
I don't understand how. Okay, so you want this group dynamic where everyone loves each other.
I never said that.
Sort of like
I never said that.
You don't like conflict.
I never said that. I never said any of those things. You're putting these words. I didn't like it. I didn't buy that these people are friends. And you're like, okay, we're going into the cave. All right, we're going through it. All right, cool. And then it's just, I don't know. I was like, yeah, the creepy crawly, whatever weird cave demon things. You're like, okay, fine. Like, when they're in the background, it's kind of scary. And then it was like, you know what? I like the scene where they're crawling across the thing and they have to lose their part of their pack. Like, I was like, okay, this is starting to get more interesting. I like this, where they have to collect their hooks. But then almost right after that, I'm like, I just didn't care. I just didn't like it. I didn't care about, like, it was just got really bloody. The team split apart. There were people that I just didn't like. And it was just, I just didn't enjoy it the whole time.
Interesting.
So, there's a hot take. No one agrees with me. Everyone likes this movie. I mean, it's pretty much universally liked. A lot of people talk about it. So I realize I'm in the minority here, and that's fine. But I gave it a fair chance, and I did not like it. But I want to hear why you liked it.
I sort of, no, I'm trying to parse through, like, the psychology of this. Like, I'm thinking, like, okay, so how about this? What if instead of an all-female cast, this was Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hudland, Pedro Pascal. What if those were the five?
I still wouldn't like it. You don't get to try and play that card on me and say that I'm sexist. I'm a card-carrying feminist, and you know it. And I did not like it.
I mean, you didn't like any of the characters. All the characters are female.
But you do not get to play that card on me. Not on my show. You don't get to do that.
Hey, okay. It's really curious because I think there's really good storytelling set within the film. You're not interested at all in, like, the psychology of the main character, the Sarah character.
What is the psychology? That she was in an accident and that her husband and son died?
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, I get it, but all of a sudden she's like this fragile little thing, and then she becomes number one badass and can just survive anything and get through everything.
I mean, there's a lot else. Okay, so now I guess if we want to, like, try and go through this, I guess. So here's my thoughts about the film. But so she goes through this trauma. She's unaware that Juno, who's,
the worst
stuff going on.
Yeah.
she's not good. She's not very chill. Also cheating on Sarah's husband, who died.
Yeah.
Which she finds out. She gets her revenge, and I I like that. I like the call at the end. But the movie sort of works as like her descent into what is, madness, right?
So
I
you're
mean,
saying this is Al Gore?
yeah, I know. It is sort of that, right? It'd be a different film if she got out, you know?
She did get out. She
Yes.
drove away.
No, she doesn't.
And
She wakes
then
up.
there's a fun jump scare.
What movie did you watch?
It's the descent. She gets in her Jeep and then she drives away, and then there's a jump scare.
Not my descent. She doesn't get out.
Yeah, she climbs through all the bones. There's light.
Yes, she wakes up. There's no, what are you talking about?
You don't remember that scene where
The end of the movie? Yes, I remember the end of the movie.
she drives away, and then there's like a jump scare in her car, and then that's the movie.
No.
Well, that was the end of the movie for me. That's when I shut it off. I was like, I don't care about this.
Agree to disagree. She doesn't make it out of the cave.
I can show you footage from the film of her crawling out. I mean, you could say that's in her head, but I'm just saying
it's for me. Okay, I think the film works best because she doesn't make it out. She's left with it's her and her daughter after she stabs Juno in the foot. She's left right back where she started. This idea that you have to keep going deeper to get out is not correct. It's not correct in how you deal with problems. It's not correct in how you deal with mental health. And it's certainly not how you should deal with losing loved ones. And so I like that, how that plays off of the actual descent into the cave. It's less interesting thinking about the monsters, the ghoulies that have sort of evolved to live down there. But if you've seen a different version of the film where she is jump scared by, was it Juno at the end, I would assume?
I think so. Yeah, it's whoever was sitting passenger in her Jeep.
And that's your film, but I'm just going to leave this because I think this is a criminally bad take by you. It's not my number one, so I'm not chalking here. But I love this film. I love movies about caves. I love any time that a character says, "Oh my God, let's keep going. We just have to keep going. We'll find a way out," because that seems insane to me to like keep going deeper to get out. But again, it's all of these movies do that, which I think is great. The original just getting stuck in the tunnel is terrifying to me. I wanted to quit the movie right there. I don't think you brought it. You didn't really bring anything to the table you just don't like it. So, okay, whatever. Curious.
Told you, and you didn't accept any of it and called me sexist. That was your rebuttal for it.
I named off the cast of Triple Frontier. I'm like, does that do it for you?
And I said no. And then you don't accept it. And you don't accept it. And that's
you fine. Didn't even I feel like you haven't seen this movie. I don't know.
Well, unless I watch a different spelunking movie where they crawl through caves and have demon ghouls come after them and they're all bloody. There is a scene where she crawls over bones, she sees daylight, she pushes through.
I know. There's.
So you're saying that didn't happen in yours, or you're saying it did?
Okay, unless there's like an alternate ending. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That we'll have to get our producer on it, fact checking it, because I don't know.
Because if that's the ending I saw and it sucked, and I was like, you know what, fuck this movie. So maybe there is an alternate ending.
You were already out at that point, so don't blame it on the ending.
I'm just saying it didn't help.
It's a bad take. Anyways, let's move on. What's your number 3?
So my number 4, that was your 3, right?
Yes.
So my number 4 is from 2008. And this is one that I knew would probably make it high on my list. One that freaked me out the first time I saw it, and honestly still creeps me out. Again, for 2008, The Strangers.
Not on my list.
Okay. So I have a feeling we'll
I've seen it.
Okay.
And this, I think, I'll let you go ahead before.
Okay. So I think that in subsequent rewatches, I don't know if it's as a whole, I don't know if it's necessarily works all the way through, but I'll say the first act is super scary, and just every time I watch it scares the shit out of me. And I don't mind going through it. I don't mind that it stalls a little bit in the second act, but I just love the cold open of they rented this cabin and they go, and it's sort of this it's this awkward thing where you find out later that he proposed and she said no, and he had sort of this honeymoon suite set up, and so they have to walk into that awkwardness. And then the unknown happens where they get a knock at the door, and just this random person is like, is Angie home or whatever? And then creepy people in masks show up, and it's just creepy, and just like it feels very realistic. And of course it says it's based on a true story. I think the director sort of based it on things that when he was a kid, people, like there was somebody who would knock at the door and ask for somebody who was home, and it was really creepy, and so they just kind of made a thing about it. But I think it works, and it's really creepy to me, and it's one that I think holds up really well. And I think that first act is so scary that it kind of makes up for the middle part that could maybe kind of drag for people. But I really like it, and it still scares me to this day. So it made it to number 4 on my list.
Okay. I hadn't seen this, and so this was on my list of films that I wanted to watch. I feel like this sort of struggled a little bit for having been a movie that I watched at 3 p.m. While I'm sort of like trying to also answer emails and do other things. And so because I really wish that I could have like given it just sort of like the full like Friday night treatment where it's just like you're just all the lights are off and you're just completely dialed in. And I love Liv Tyler, and I just wanted to just like completely invest in it. And so I feel like I didn't quite get all of the atmosphere, and I needed to be fully invested, because that's sort of what this movie is. It's
Totally.
like the fuel is just sort of that feeling of what's gonna happen next. And I think you're right. The first like 30 minutes all the way through that sort of pivotal moment when it's like, okay, they have this figured out, they're holed up, they have a gun, it's gonna be okay, right? But then that like tightening of the screws after, you know, a pivotal event happens, then it really starts like things just start to go off the rails. And so that's good. The sort of whole like I kept like laughing at the strangers, because I just kept thinking of like a new metal band, you know, where they do
like Korn,
like the sort of like head the 2000s head tilt thing.
Slipknot.
Just the Slipknot face, like, and I just like kept thinking of that, and I just like I sort of kept laughing. I couldn't really keep, especially the girls who had like the actual mask on. So that didn't help either. But I will say that I think, given the circumstances, given a little bit more time, like we sort of rushed a lot of these films. So I don't know. I watched like 12 or 13 films in the past 10 days, and 2 made my list. So this one just kind of went by the wayside, and I think it's better than I'm giving credit for. I almost thought about going back and like redoing my Letterboxd. Like I edit and revise my Letterboxd reviews. Like some people like delete tweets, you know, you wake up and it's like, oh fuck, like what did I just like? That's me with Letterboxd. I'm just like, oh my god, that take was horrible. I need to change it like right away. Like so I'm having second thoughts about The Strangers. So
I think it's really good, and I also have sort of it's weird to say a sentimental attachment to it, but when I first saw it, it was the summer that my family, we moved to this house, and we were just going to live there for the summer. And it's literally like the plot of a horror film, but basically like this guy defrauded these companies, and this is a real story that happened to us, but basically we didn't get defrauded, but basically he told these companies that he wanted to build this big resort on Lake Chetek in Minnesota. And so they invested a bunch of money into him, and he said he was going to build it. Well, then he wasn't sending updates on it. And basically what he did was, instead of building a resort, he just kind of built himself a mansion. And so he built it all, put in an indoor pool, put in a second garage with the like living quarters above it. And then basically he got found out, obviously. And then he left town. They think he might have left the country, whatever. And so his wife and kids were stuck there, and they obviously couldn't afford to pay for it. So it got foreclosed on, and the bank wanted someone to live in it just for the summer before they could get to sell it, right? So we were the people that were like, my parents were real estate agents at the time. They were like, oh yeah, we'll do it. And so we could live there rent free over the summer. And then you hear the story, and it's kind of like out there that it's like, you know, this guy could conceivably just come back to this house and be pissed that he was kicked out of it and that his life went to shit and whatever. So it's a good setup for a horror film already. And so we're in this
too much preamble, but
okay. That's what I do.
Leave like like some of the insurance fraud stuff that might get left on the cutting floor. But
we won't do it in the opening credits. We'll kind of piece it. You'll figure it out as you go. It won't be.
I might have it where like you just Ethan Hawke rolls into the driveway.
Yeah.
Like, here we are, kids.
Yep. And then you kind of figure it out as you go. Exactly. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
So we kind of lived sort of like a little bit on edge.
Okay.
We thought like he might be coming back.
It's a personal story. It's still going.
Exactly. So watching the strangers in that house, seeing strangers that are attempting to come into this place that you're not used to, and you don't really know why, and they don't really know why you're there, whatever, like that just very much hit home for me at that time and scared the fucking shit out of me. And so I think maybe that could be why it still scares me to this day, but I think it's a really great film. So
which ending did you which ending do you have for this film?
Where they convert to Mormonism. They all become Latter-day Saints at the end. They go to church. Was that the same one you saw?
I had the version where Liv Tyler saves a bunch of money on car insurance by switching to Geico. So
I like that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I actually Googled it while you were giving that synopsis. The unrated version of Descent, she does not make it out.
Okay, so I must have seen the rated R version.
You've seen an inferior version for an inferior take, and yep. I'm still not over it, but let's go ahead.
Okay.
I like The Strangers. I think it's a good film. I debated. I need to probably give it another shot. So
yeah. So then my number 3 is from 2005, and this is one that horrified me when I was younger, and I just blocked it out of my head until we started doing this list. And when we said the 2000s, this was one that popped up, and I was like, this movie like traumatized me when I was younger, so I got to rewatch it. And it's a very good film, but it's called
Halloween.
Yes, Halloween Town 2. Calabar's Revenge. No, it's The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
I knew this was coming up. I almost watched this because you've mentioned this movie a bunch, and goddamn, there's so many exorcism movies I can never keep them straight. So go ahead. I haven't heard. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think. No, I haven't seen this movie.
Okay, so it's directed by Scott Derrickson, and stars Laura Linney, Tom Wilkinson, and Jennifer Carpenter. And it's based on true events, basically. I think it happened in Germany, but basically this...
You don't have to keep
there was an insurance fraud, and they said they were gonna
The Exorcist is based off of
true events. Yeah.
Just fucking cut the shit.
So
none of this shit happened.
So basically the film takes place over a trial. They're basically putting this priest on trial because he was attempting to do an exorcism, and the young woman died during it, and because of malnutrition and whatever else, she just died. And so it was basically the people versus the priest, right? And so Laura Linney is a lawyer, and she's going to defend him. It's kind of a high profile case, and they kind of want to keep it under wraps. So she agrees to defend him. She's agnostic. She's trying to move up the ladder at her law firm, whatever. And so over the course of her building this case with the priest, he slowly starts kind of filling her in, obviously, on what happened. And so we get these flashbacks to what happened. The main takeaway for me is that Jennifer Carpenter makes this film. I mean, her physical acting is incredible, and it's unsettling. And the things like, I could see you laughing at this, Old Legs, when you watch it, and that's totally fine. I mean, it's who you are. But just like, honestly, the faces she's able to make, and like the body contortions and the literal physical acting is really fucking creepy. And it's something that it's like only Jennifer Carpenter, I feel like, could really do this role. And because it doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel like forced. It doesn't feel like she's hamming it up. Like, it looks like she's in pain.
We're talking like Dexter Jennifer
Carpenter. I believe so. Yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah. All right.
She blows me away in it, and it's really unsettling, and it's fucking creepy. And what I really like is that the way the film goes about is that it's creepy for one thing, but it also, like, the way the trial goes on, they literally show both sides, but the movie works either way, whether you believe that these things really happened and that this stuff is true, or you don't believe in it and you don't think any of this is true. And it works, honestly, either way.
What's your verdict?
What's my verdict? Well, you'd probably have to ask Luke at different times, when I first saw it and now, because those would be different answers. But because even if you don't believe, at the end of the day, it's a tragedy, and this thing shouldn't have happened, and it's creepy and horrifying that they allowed it to happen.
You're ready to run for office.
Thank you.
Denounce exorcism.
Look,
denounce white supremacy, please.
Just stand back, be ready to attack. We'll get
right
there.
now.
But no, it's a great film. There's good people on both sides, I'm sure. No, but The Exorcism of Emily Rose, very good, very creepy. The next time you randomly wake up at 3 a.m., I always think of this film, and it creeps me out. So that's what I'll say.
All right. Well, we have reached the end of my list. We can talk about my next two films together because I said screw it. So my number one and my number two are Wreck and Wreck 2. Have you seen these films?
No.
Well, we did it.
We made it through.
20 different films. The listeners have a lot.
That is insane.
So, wow, you haven't seen Wreck?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So I put Wreck, the first one, number one on my list. this film rules. I think it's the best found footage film that I've seen. Better than was Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Okay, that was not really scary, but Rec is essentially it's a Spanish film that it follows a newswoman and just one cameraman, and they're just sort of following these fighters. They're doing like one of those like day in the life of a firefighter sort of thing.
Sure.
And, well, what happens? And they're like, nothing normally. Play basketball and tell fart jokes. He's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like this like funny thing where it's like, I hope, we get to see something tonight, but not anything serious. Like, it's like, all right, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
But so they do get a call. And so they all jump in the fire truck, go to the building, and something is not right. Something is not right. A woman is upstairs. She's locked in her room. She's making crazy noises, and all the neighbors are freaked out. They call to the fire department because they can unlock doors. And so they get up there. The woman is disturbed. And from here, it sort of turns into just kind of a zombie movie, but without really any sort of tools, and you're sort of locked in this claustrophobic. It's sort of like The Raid, but without the kung fu. And you sort of peel back the layers as they realize that the government has locked them in this and that they've known about it. And I'll just say that the last 15 minutes is fucking terrifying as they make their way up the building.
And you don't normally like zombie movies, right?
I normally don't think they're scary.
Yeah.
But this one's fucking creepy as shit. And so now I'm a little bit worried about talking about Rec 2. But Rec 2 essentially takes place, it does like the full Halloween 2, where it's just like 15 minutes later. It's fucking awesome.
Wow.
I would say that it's a little bit more fast paced because at this point, like 15 minutes later, you have like new people coming into the building. You have like the government response to this thing that's happening inside. And this is essentially like Rec 2, the world building gets to the point where, okay, like now it's like, what if in Spotlight, if it, instead of like the Catholic Church covering up priests who were molesting little boys, it was the Catholic Church knew about the zombie apocalypse, is sort of where it goes to. And I'll just leave it at that. But there's again, my favorite trope. They bring in a priest. They bring in a priest to fucking deal with the zombies, and it is awesome. There's a couple characters that come back, but for the most part, I mean, this is a zombie movie, so a lot of people die. Learning about like the origin of it is fun. The world building, the fact that it's actually just like this claustrophobic, legit scary, like the things that, it's so weird looking back now, because I don't know like what you think about like the found footage, but do you feel like there's like a stigma with found footage a little bit?
Yeah, and I think that Cloverfield was kind of the apex of it when you mentioned it, because it was really popular, and that was when it was still kind of fun, but then I think everybody also at the same time got annoyed with it at that point, and then it just kind of felt tired after that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're always going to have these. I just like them. I mean, Paranormal's great. I rewatched that. I loved it. I mean, Zoom is probably the best horror film of the year.
Yeah.
Or not Zoom.
I know exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The host.
It might as well be called Zoom.
Yeah. So I always, and again, my great background here, I have like,
Wait, what's behind you?
Or like levitating.
Yeah.
And now I'm making fun of it, so that's great. Yeah. But Rec and Rec 2, I love it. And this was kind of the fun thing where I thought I had seen one of these movies. So I turned on Rec and I'm like, I think I've seen Rec. I'll watch it again. Haven't seen it. I'm like, must have been Rec 2. I think I've seen Rec 2. I'll throw it in. Haven't seen Rec 2. I had seen Rec 3, which I watched, and it was not eligible for this list. But if it was, it would have
been number
been
3.
Because Rec 3 is basically just like, what was happening at a wedding? And there's a chainsaw and a bride, and it's amazing. So I love the series. None of them are bad. And these are just my favorite films. They're fun, they're scary, they're awesome. It has this like mystery that you unravel. The storytelling is good. The found footage is a great gimmick. I'm a sucker for it, so that's my top.
It's interesting. I always kind of thought of these in the camp of like the VHS movies. Like I don't know why. I just kind of thought it was sort of almost like an
anthology. I mean, there's different perspectives, but again, it's this fun sort of time period where we still were like, you had to have a reason to have a camera. You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a fucking cameraman in this because otherwise, like, there's no cameras,
Yeah.
Which now is like in a crazy thing where it's just like everyone's just like, oh, like it was so foreign back then, but now it's so. I mean, we have full video platforms that are just live streaming stuff,
Yeah.
So essentially, our lives are found footage now. We are found footage. So
we are, aren't we? Someone is gonna find this.
Doing found footage right now. It just hasn't been found yet.
Bro, no way.
Crazy.
That's
crazy
crazy.
Concept, man. So that's my top recommendation. Rec.
Okay.
All 3 recs.
I'm actually really excited to see those.
Yeah. The world building really, really separates it from other zombie films. It's a different take on it. Then you've probably we've heard 100 different origins of like zombie, but this one's fun. This one, it's super fucking metal, and at this point, so the floor is yours.
I'm into it. So my number 2 is the most recent of these that I've seen, one that I hadn't really heard of before, and one that I just kind of stumbled upon. It's called Lake Mungo from 2008. It's Australian. Yeah, and it's
this actually.
You've heard of it?
This, keep going.
So it's basically shot documentary style. So it's a fake documentary, and it's got some, it's some Twin Peaks vibes, just because it centers around a girl who died, and then you kind of go through her last name. Their last name is Palmer, so clear, like he's just giving Lynch a thumbs up there. But it's just, it feels eerily realistic, a little bit too realistic in the good way, sort of like I think how audiences felt in the 90s seeing Blair Witch. Like it just feels like very much just really real, and it kind of takes you through the phases of what happened. So basically this girl drowns, and it's interviewing her family, her mother, her father, her brother, and then people in the town. So she drowned, and then it's basically people dealing with this grief. And I think the film is kind of about how people deal with grief differently. And so it's the process of each of these. So each of these people are kind of dealing with it differently. And then, so she drowns, and then just creepy stuff starts happening. at the house, and it kind of progresses from there. But it takes a lot of turns that I did not expect, and that you're kind of like, okay, I get what's going on. It's going to go here. And then you're like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. And then it keeps going a little bit, and you're like, okay, I think I know where, okay, I think I get it. And then you're like, oh, okay, I guess this is where we're going now. And it's really interesting, and it creeped me the hell out. And I think it's probably because these interviews all felt very realistic, and all the dialogue was improv basically, but it just felt like how normal people talk. And just little things like, after the daughter drowns, like the mom she talks about, she's like, yeah, I just like, so I couldn't really sleep at night. I kept having dreams of her standing at the foot of my bed, soaked, staring at me. And she's like, so I would just kind of take late night walks. And then she's like, and I would just start going into people's houses. And you're like, what? And she's like, I just kind of wanted to pretend that I was living their life. And it's like, that's creepy.
Normal.
And normal. And then people around the town were like, yeah, I heard that she started going into people's houses. But, it's like, it's just creepy. And the ending really got me. So I'm not going to obviously give it away, but just the way it ended, good idea, is that it just, I shut it off, and I was all of a sudden like, okay, I need to turn some lights on. And I'm like, haven't done that since I was a kid, but it really got under my skin. So the tough guy persona has been lifted for this one.
Wow.
But it really got in there. And
make sure you get the right ending.
Yeah. So I believe there's only one, but yeah. And the director hasn't done anything since, hasn't done anything before. He did one interview about it on Facebook in 2009. Otherwise, no one's heard of this guy. And basically what he said about it was that he made this movie because he thought it'd be easy to make, because he wanted to make a bigger budget thing. He never did anything else, and no one knows his story. And this is a great film. And so it's like, where is this guy? And so I think that kind of adds to the mystery of it too, where it just kind of plopped it down, and it's really effective. And it creeped me the hell out.
It's like a bit for this guy. He's like,
it's a bit, yeah.
He's just really committed.
Yep. He's like, I don't want them to even know that I'm a person. That's how creepy. Maybe a ghost made it. We don't really know.
He sells insurance now.
Yeah. So I heard he defrauds people and builds mansions. So then my number one horror film of the 2000s, which I thought might make your list, but it didn't. And when I thought of the 2000s and I thought of horror, this was the first one that popped up. And what?
Can I guess?
Yeah, guess.
The Ring.
You guessed it. That's exactly correct. The Ring is my number one horror film from the 2000s.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You're good. So
when might be I'm better, than some other people on the spot.
So
okay.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna rewatch it, and rewatching, I'm like, fuck, this is a really good movie, man. It's just really well done. It's really creepy, and it's just a really well-made horror film. What doesn't hold up about it is how analog it is, and how VHS, it was almost past its time with VHS tapes in 2002. It was getting close.
One of the bluest movies you'll ever watch.
Very blue. All blue. Yes. That was a hot take you had coming in.
There's so much. It's either just that blue light artificial lens, or just that washout like yellow. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing in between. And like that, like I had like a breaking point where I was like, guys, I can't watch another film with this fucking blue light lens. Like, it's just like, there's no seasons. There's no like night, day, morning, mid-afternoon, same fucking lighting. I was like, I digress.
Yeah.
Continue.
But I think that like part of the reason I love scream so much, and I think it kind of translates into this too. Is like Scary Movie 3 did such a good job of making fun of The Ring. You know, it did a great job making fun of Signs, did a great job of making fun of The Ring. So I wasn't sure if
I wanted,
rewatching it
yeah,
would be scary because it almost became a parody because of Scary Movie 3. But rewatching it, it was still really scary and really effective. And I was like, I give it props for that. For it still being scary. The tape itself isn't quite as disturbing as it once was. Maybe it's just because you and I have seen a lot more short films and a lot more. It just screams experimental student short film to me. And it just isn't really that scary anymore.
right.
But overall, it's a mystery. It's a fun mystery to unravel, and I love the timetable of it. You know, obviously 7 days to figure it out, and
It's a great premise.
it is
Like
a very good premise. Yes.
the premise itself, I'm sort of surprised that there haven't been more of these, or maybe there is, like just like it's sort of like this action movie trope where you have this, like there's 2 minutes till the timer and then everything blows up. Uh, and that really lends to kind of like that, like cranking up the heat.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Naomi Watts in this. I almost think this is like, is peak Naomi Watts. Has she been better in anything? Am I
I
am I
mean,
crazy?
I think this is a safe call. I mean, I was gonna be a hipster and say
Well,
Mulholland Drive,
yeah.
but
I mean, but that's
that's like a year before this. Yeah.
you think of when you think of Mulholland Drive, what do you think of?
Lesbian makeout.
Well, yeah, that's pre-porn too, so
Yeah.
you know,
So
slim pickings.
yeah, but it's Lynch. It's Lynch
Yeah,
first.
when I don't necessarily think like Naomi Watts.
Yep.
So that's, I don't know. That's, it's sort of one of the, I'm kind of curious what you thought there, but
Yeah.
uh,
And I was surprised at the end that I just didn't realize who directed it. I was like, Gore Verbinski directed this, of Pirates of the Caribbean fame. And I was like, whoa, I had totally forgotten about that. So that kind of gave it some points for me too. I was like, good for you, man. I just never would have guessed that in a million years. So, I mean,
I, yeah, I like this film.
yeah.
I did rewatch this as well. I think you're right in that it's just a little bit too overpowered by even, God, I remember seeing this in theaters in high school, or
Mm.
probably like junior high. I think this was like still at the point where you had to like sneak into the theater or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember it. I remember being terrified by it because this is, again, pre-scary movie. So this
Yeah.
was like when it was legit scary. The rewatch going back, there's just like certain things I just kind of enjoy about it. I'm like, holy shit, there's fucking Brian Cox is in this movie. And he popped up a couple times when I was like, I rewatched, or I watched for the first time Trick or Treat, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, here's fucking Logan Roy again. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's incredible. So just, it sort of hits that sweet spot of, I think you have overqualified people doing something that is a little bit below what they're capable of, which really elevates the source material. And
Yeah.
the final thing that I'll ask about this film, because I'm curious, have you seen the Japanese version?
Ringu.
Ringu.
I have not.
Okay. I have seen it. It is much, much more of a slow burn.
Mm.
I actually sort of prefer The Grudge, the June-own Japanese original of The Grudge, and I considered it putting it on here, but I also thought, like, am I gonna revisit? Like, I tried to keep this to films that I would actually watch again.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I feel like I felt good about that when I was making it through. But there's some really good stuff, and I feel like American horror owes a ton to Japanese and Korean cinema, just as far as, you know, bringing us huge franchise. Like, I don't know how many Ring movies are there? Like, there's
Yeah, they just did another remake, but they made The Ring. I think they made The Ring 2 in the early 2000s, and I think they just made
3, right?
yeah, I think there's 3 of them because I think there was one that just came out just a couple years ago.
Oh, but there's not a third sequel, like a
I don't think so. I don't think there's a Ring 3. Maybe it's called like Rings or something and I missed it, but
you know.
these titles aren't that hard, guys. I mean,
Yeah. No, it's a good pick. Should we recap our list here, or?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for mine, I had at 10, I had Drag Me to Hell, 9, Silent Hill, House of the Devil, Paranormal Activity, Antichrist, and then into my top 5, Pan's Labyrinth, Let the Right One In, number 3, The Descent, which is a great film. Please go out and watch it. And then number 2 and number 1 were Rec 2 and Rec 1. I think of that as one full definitive story, and boy, does it work well. And it's, again, I think I got another W here. Go ahead and tell us your list, but
yeah, you can go, but you know. So number 10, I have Dead Silence. Number 9, The Hills Have Eyes. Number 8, Saw. 7, The Mothman Prophecies. Number 6, Freddy vs. Jason. Number 5, Vacancy. Number 4, The Strangers. Number 3, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Number 2, Lake Mungo. And number 1, The Ring. So wow. I could say this was the hardest top 10 list I've ever done.
We kind of joked that we wouldn't match on a single film.
And I didn't.
I was like, I'm sure he'll have this one on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I watched a shitload of fucking shitty movies and things that I thought would be better than they were.
Yeah.
And it got a little frustrating, but I think we did sort of carve out this. It's pre-Blumhouse. We have the Versus movies. We have
some found footage,
sort of just kind of one-offs that I sort of maybe wish that we had more of, and some the very sort of whispers of what we would start getting as far as getting into our tour horror. So did you have anything that you watched that just didn't make the list, or that wanted to
you said Trick or Treat, which I love, and I'm sure that I've told you 1,000 times how much I like it, but that's more of a Halloween movie and not really a scary movie. It's good to just get you in the Halloween mood, but it's not really a horror film.
It's like rated R Goosebumps.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah. The Descent we've talked about. So what were some that didn't make your list?
I watched Jennifer's Body,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
It's better than I thought. It holds up.
Yeah.
Cabin Fever, The Mist, The Ring, 28 Days, which falls into that category of zombie movie that's good, but not scary. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you thoughts on 28 Days?
No, totally agree. And I think the aesthetic of the digital camera maybe worked better at the time. But I think that rewatching it, the graininess kind of doesn't really hold up. But I think at the time it probably worked to feel found footagey, but I think rewatching it doesn't really. I kind of like 28 Weeks Later. For sure the opening of it I think is a lot scarier than anything in 28 Days Later, but it's not as good of a movie overall. But
yeah. The Others, The Orphanage.
Yeah, The Others is good.
Others is all right. And that's about it for things that I had either seen, rewatched, maybe didn't consider.
Yeah, but it just kind of shows how
Great movie.
how like wide open of a decade it was, and that there weren't any real big tent poles that we could kind of even try to guide ourselves through. It was literally wide open. So I mean, you kind of joked like the 10 movies that you watch are going to be the ones that make the list, and
Not far off.
it's not far off. Yeah.
I sort of just defaulted to the things that I knew that were good, that I liked.
Yeah, exactly.
It almost makes me feel like I did a lot more work than I needed to.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe I'll just be lazy this time.
But
yeah, this was fun. Luke keeps saying that, there's no winner, there's no loser. It's a very safe place, and I understand that coming from, he comes from a background where there's, we get participation medals, and everybody's a winner here. It's like Premier League soccer, no playoffs.
This is
where all change. That's all going to change because our next podcast, we're doing the draft.
We're doing
the fucking draft.
The horror
movie draft. We have categories lined up. Each one of us is going to get a pick.
And with special appearance from friend of the pod, our
special appearance,
our resident uncle Chuck, will be here to participate in the definitive horror movie draft. Get hyped.
It's going to be exciting. He's coming back like Jamie Lee Curtis in like 30 years later. We all thought he was dead. That's not the case. He's just been holed up in an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere that's set with booby traps, just waiting for Michael to come back, wishing that Michael would come back so he could kill him. That's Uncle Chuck. He's gonna be back. It's been a while. It's exciting. There is gonna be winners. There is gonna be losers. I doubt if I'm gonna be a loser, but we'll see. Anything can happen. I doubt Luke will be a winner, but hey, anything's possible. So
yeah, I'm just more about having fun, guys.
Well, again, that's the loser's mentality. But, I want winners. I want people who can win. So what can I say?
Well, we'll see. So we'll see you then. Yep. Until then, hit us up. You can find me on Twitter at LukeLarson89. Find this podcast at L-Squared Podcast on Twitter. On Instagram, we're on Facebook at L2 Podcast. Subscribe to us on Spotify. That way you can follow us. Let us know what horror films from the 2000s you liked. And you better be there front and center for the definitive all-time horror movie draft. Get hyped.